Hidden in the hills of Yorkshire, off the beaten track, you can find one of the best preserved medieval villages in the country. This village, deserted for the past 500 years, also holds a grisly secret. Welcome to Wharram Percy. Wharram Percy is one of the best preserved medieval villages in the country, and from the air you get an amazing perspective of the whole layout of this once thriving community.
The trackway I'm walking on, which leads to the village of Wharram Percy, was in use by about 50 BC. There's evidence the site was in use as far back as the early Iron Age, and it continued to be occupied during the Roman period and during the Saxon times.
Wharram Percy, by medieval standards, was a prosperous, thriving and healthy place to live. It had a population of around 200 people. Its inhabitants had jobs and food was plentiful. It had mills, a church and around 40 houses.
The village had two manor houses, one to the south of the village, probably built by the Percy family around 1166, and then this was demolished in about 1254 to make way for a second manor house over to the north end of the village. This was also built by the Percys and occupied till about 1406. There were a further 6 properties over to the east of the manor house, together with 40 peasant houses with barns and outbuildings here in the village. We have a house! Right, better leave through the door.
Life in Wharram Percy was very good, but that was all about to change. The Black Death had arrived in England.
Misfortune struck the village in the early 14th century. There was no male heir to inherit the manor house. The village was raided by the Scots. Then the population was massively reduced by the Black Death.
The Black Death was to leave this village as fast as it arrived, and in its wake had killed over half its inhabitants. What had these poor people done to offend God to deserve all this? The medieval mindset was about to start working. This part of England has forever been shrouded in mystery, folklore and superstition, and the stories of the dead rising and the supernatural were never far from the minds of the medieval people that lived in Wharram Percy. And this was to be made very apparent when in 1963 archaeologists made a chance find. Up on the hill, outside the village boundary, they made a gruesome discovery. Buried in a pit, archaeologists found the remains of at least 10 individuals, men, women and children, ranging from the age of 3 to 50 years, and the way their bodies had been treated after death was both mysterious and disturbing. Their heads had been cut off, their bodies hacked to pieces, mutilated and then burnt. What's even stranger is that the bodies were laid to rest here over a 300-year period. What was going on here, and why were they buried here and not in the churchyard with everybody else?
There are many tales in medieval manuscripts that tell of revenants, animated corpses that would rise from the graves and terrorise the living. It was thought that the malevolent life force of individuals who'd committed evil deeds during their life would linger after death and cause the bodies to rise again. And the only way to deal with this problem was to dig up the offending corpse, decapitate and dismember it, and burn the pieces in fire. The idea that the dead could rise again wasn't new in medieval times. In Norse mythology, we have the tale of draugrs, or ones who walk after death. In 1090, we have the story of 2 runaway peasants who, on the same day that they were buried, were seen walking around the village again that evening. The villagers became sick and started dying, so the bodies were exhumed. They were decapitated, the pieces burned in fire, and the sickness stopped.
The village has been deserted for centuries and its inhabitants long forgotten.
And it's sad that the villagers were forced to leave their homes and abandon the village forever. Or did they?